Of course, there's a lot of misery, but it is the same misery that is all around us. The trees here are in misery and the birds are in misery. I don't think they sing, they just screech in pain.
Werner Herzog is a German filmmaker and documentarian whose work demonstrates how film itself can be used as a form of information design. Instead of simply giving facts, Herzog structures information visually and narratively so it becomes an experience that makes us think and feel. Herzog was born in Munich, Germany in 1942 and grew up in a remote Bavarian village after World War II, with almost no exposure to modern media. He didn't make his first phone call until he was 17, and he taught himself filmmaking after stealing a camera as a teenager. Herzog emerged in the late 60s and 70s as part of the new German cinema movement, alongside directors like Werner Fassbinder and Wim Wenders. Unlike many of his peers, Herzog often set his stories in remote or extreme environments, fascinated by the tension between human ambition and the overwhelming power of nature. He is known for both fiction films like Aguirre, The Wrath of God, Fitzcarraldo, and Nosferatu the Vampire, and for his distinctive documentaries including Grizzly Man, Encounters at the End of the World, and Cave of Forgotten Dreams. French filmmaker Francois Truffaut once described Herzog as the most important film director alive, a statement that underscores just how unique and influential his approach has been. What makes Herzog especially relevant to information design is his philosophy of ecstatic truth. For him, documentaries are not just about delivering facts, they're about uncovering deeper emotional or philosophical truths. He achieves this by designing information through striking visuals, poetic narration, and unusual perspectives. Instead of presenting data or history directly, Herzog filters information through themes like obsession, mortality, and the sublime. His films show us that information can be shaped into something more meaningful than just facts. In the documentary Grizzly Man, Herzog tells the story of Timothy Treadwell, who lived among grizzly bears in Alaska for 13 summers before being killed by one. The raw information comes from Treadwell himself, who filmed hundreds of hours of footage of the bears and his life in the wilderness. Herzog designs this material into something larger, however. Through his narration and editing, he frames the story not just as wildlife observation, but as mediation on obsession, human vulnerability, and nature's indifference. Instead of leaving us with just bare facts, Herzog leaves us with existential questions about the limits of human reach and man versus nature. In Encounters at the End of the World, Herzog travels to Antarctica, a place many other documentaries present through science or penguins. Herzog interviews scientists, divers, and workers, but he emphasizes their eccentric personalities and the surreal quality of the landscape. For example, he films divers under the Antarctic ice in a way that feels almost alien, and he talks to a linguist worried about endangered languages, showcasing culture in this remote place and how fragile it can be. In this documentary, information is designed to inspire wonder and reflection. It's less about hard data and more about showing science as part of the broader human experience of curiosity and survival. Cave of Forgotten Dreams explores the Chauvet Cave in France, which contains 30,000-year-old cave paintings, the oldest known examples of human art. Herzog was given rare access to the cave and used 3D cameras to capture the contours of the walls. The factual information here is archaeological: what do paintings look like, how old they are, and what scientists believe they mean. But Herzog designs this information by slowing down the visuals, adding dreamlike narration, and encouraging us to feel the emotional weight of these ancient works. Instead of just presenting an artifact, he creates an experience that connects us with humanity's earliest attempts at communication. In the documentary La Soufriere, Herzog documents the island of Guadeloupe, which had been evacuated due to an expected volcanic eruption. The scientific side of the story would focus on geology, eruptions, forecasts, and risk, but Herzog focuses on a single man who refused to evacuate, choosing to remain in the shadow of the volcano. Through this choice, Herzog reshapes the documentary into a meditation on fate, mortality, and human dignity. Here, the information design is not about presenting data, it's about using a natural disaster as a lens for universal human themes. Finally, in Wings of Hope, another documentary by Herzog, He tells the remarkable true story of Julianne Kopke, the sole survivor of a 1971 plane crash in the Peruvian rainforest. She fell over 10,000 feet, strapped to her seat, and survived by trekking alone for 11 days until she was rescued. The raw information is extraordinary, a survival account of almost impossible odds, but Herzog designs the film by retracing Kopke's journey with her decades later. Together, they revisit the crash site and the paths that she took through the forest. This transforms the story from sensational fact into reflective experience. We see not only how she survived, but how she has lived with that survival. What deepens the information design is Herzog's own connection. He had originally been booked on the same flight, but changed plans at the last minute. By revealing this, he frames the documentary as a meditation on fate, chance, and the fragility of life. Across these films, Herzog demonstrates that information is never neutral. Through framing, the editing, the narration, and the subject choice, he turns facts into experiences that resonate on emotional and philosophical levels with the viewer. His documentaries succeed because they don't just inform audiences, they actually make them reflect. Today, Herzog's influence extends beyond cinema. Many educators, scientists, and storytellers look to his work as an example of how information can be crafted to inspire thought and curiosity, not just to deliver data. In conclusion, by blending fact, philosophy, and visual storytelling, Werner Herzog shows us that film can be one of the most powerful forms of information design. His documentaries demonstrate how information can be crafted into meaningful human experiences. These aren't just documentaries, they're stories with real people that make you feel real emotions.
And we have to become humble in front of this overwhelming misery and overwhelming fornication, overwhelming growth, and overwhelming lack of order. Even the stars up here in the sky look like a mess. There is no harmony in the universe. We have to get acquainted to this idea that there is no real harmony as we have conceived it. But when I say this all full of admiration for the jungle. It is not that I hate it. I love it. I love it very much. But I love it against my better judgment.